All right, everyone. Hello and welcome into today's discussion where we're going to be talking about a conundrum that the Minnesota Vikings are facing on offense this time. We spent a lot of time so far in the early stages of this offseason talking about the defense ad nauseum, wanting to fire Ed Donatel, needing changes to the personnel on the other side of the ball, and rightfully so. We've needed to spend that kind of time to kick off the offseason because that's the side of the ball that let us down the most this year. They had a very terrible regular season. I think they progressively got worse in the second half. And then in the playoff game, they made Daniel Jones look like Joe Montana. I mean, did you see the Eagles game where that Giants offense got completely shut down? That should have been us. We should have been able to take care of our own business. But alas, here we are eliminated from the postseason, watching on the couch at home. So that is all in the rearview mirror. We're going to continue to talk about the defensive changes coming up throughout the offseason. But today, it feels like we shouldn't be ignoring the offense as much as we have because we feel pretty comfortable. We feel pretty confident about the personnel, the play calling. You know, our offensive coordinator is the head coach, so we won't be losing him. And it feels like that hasn't happened in a number of years where you have the same play caller for back-to-back seasons. I think Stefanski might have been the last one, but I don't remember. Maybe Gary Kubiak was the last one. Did he coordinate for more than one season? I don't remember. Somebody will have to let me know in the comments. But today we need to talk about the offense and more importantly, the offensive line. And it's a broken record problem for the Minnesota Vikings because it feels like for the third, fourth, fifth year in a row, we need to have a conversation about the offensive line because it almost got Kirk Cousins killed this year. I think he was the most pressured or most hit quarterback in the NFL this year. And the dude just absolutely took a whooping. And we need to put a stop to that. And I think this conversation is going to start with what to do about the center position. Because Garrett Bradbury, who is arguably a first-round bust, I think it's safe to call it that because at this point, it feels like you should want to retain him for his services, but his fifth-year option was not picked up earlier before the season began. He is about to enter free agency after 4 seasons with the Minnesota Vikings. So we have a situation on our hands. What do we do with the center position? Do we bring back Garrett Bradbury? Do we go back to the draft and try again? Or do we try our hands at free agency this time? So, and all three of those options, unfortunately, come with problems, problems of their own. So let's talk about Garrett Bradbury himself. And let's talk about the option of maybe bringing him back for another year. Would you feel comfortable doing that on a contract that could prevent you from overhauling the defense in certain spots? Now, I don't think he's going to demand a very lucrative extension, but you know he's somebody that the Vikings know, or that him and his agent know that the Vikings need. So they have a little bit of a pushover. They've got a little bit of an edge when it comes to that part of the negotiations. The first 3 seasons of Garrett Bradbury under center were pretty disappointing, if I could put it that way. He was pushed around and bullied more than we would like to admit, and the horror that we saw with our own eyes when he was basically bulldozed right into the lap of Kirk Cousins on more occasions than rightfully should be. I mean, the amount of times that he just got absolutely whooped by the nose tackle or defensive tackle should be a war crime at this point. So, you know, it's kind of weird because in his 4th season, his final on his rookie deal, because remember they declined the 5th-year option, I think some could argue, and if you made the argument, I wouldn't be upset, that he showed some improvements. Now, he's still not the perfect person to be the starting center for the Minnesota Vikings. He's just a guy. He's just a dude. You know, it's like when they signed Hicks last year to play linebacker, everybody was really excited, like, oh yeah, this is a big improvement. I'm like, he's just a guy, and he's going to be just a guy that plays for another team, not named the Vikings for the next season. So Garrett Bradbury is quite the conundrum. What do you do with him as he's about to head into free agency? Now, initial reports sounds like him talking to reporters that he wants to stay here, which, you know, that's understandable. I think in this building, in US Bank Stadium, I think he's got his best shot to be a starter. Anywhere else, I don't know. Maybe he's a depth piece. Maybe he signed somewhere else and they asked him to move positions, maybe to guard. Is there a starting center job out there for Garrett Bradbury this offseason? I don't know. I don't really follow the desperate cries for help from other teams in their offensive lines because we've got problems of our own in-house that we need to deal with. So let's say we decline to bring back Garrett Bradbury and sign him to a new contract. Let's say we go to the draft. Well, we've already tried that. I'm not against trying it again. Maybe this time with somebody with a little bit better measurables physically compared to Garrett Bradbury, who is a little bit on the smaller side and thus was bulldozed quite a bit as the aforementioned horror that we've spoken of already. But you've only got 4, maybe soon to be 5 draft picks when they announce compensatory picks for Tyler Conklin. So you'd be spending one of your small pieces of the draft puzzle this year on a center. I don't know if we want to do that, but if it's something you have to do, it's something you have to do. The last opportunity for a new center would be free agency, but the past couple of years we have spent watching that first and second wave of free agents, especially on the offensive line, go to other teams because other teams have more capital. We can't compete with the dollars that they put on these contracts when it comes to free agency. So we're left waiting for that third, fourth, and fifth wave of free agents to sign with us because we need cheap veterans to fill holes because we have no salary cap space. Now, there is going to be a grand opportunity to create salary cap space this year once they get some of these contracts off the books, like Eric Kendricks, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, maybe restructure Harrison Smith. But there's going to be cap space that's going to be made, and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is going to have to do that somehow. Because if he wants to overhaul the defense, you're going to need to make cap space because you don't have enough draft picks to do it. So you're going to have to rely on a combination of the draft and free agency to get better on defense. And that's going to open up some money for the offense, I would hope. At least I would really hope that they're not going to go cheap on the offensive line, because it's not like Ezra Cleveland is an all-pro guard, right? He's just another guy. I commend him for switching positions because he was a left tackle at Boise State, and he's played guard for the entirety of his career with the Vikings, so I commend him for that. But at the end of the day, he's just a guy. And then Ed Ingram had a pretty bad rookie season, but there was some flashes of hope. Maybe he pans out. It does take this position, I would think, a little bit longer to develop, especially for a second-round pick. So that is where the conversation is currently. Garrett Bradbury does not have the fifth-year option because that was declined earlier in the season. He is facing free agency. Sounds like he wants to come back. It is unknown what the current Vikings plans are. Of course, we are still in the early stages of all of this. So let me know in the comments below, what did you think of Garrett Bradbury's fourth season with the Minnesota Vikings compared to the first three? Is it enough for you to want to keep him, or do you think we need to move on and find something else somewhere else? So that's going to do it for me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.